Hello again, everybody. Well, one of the subjects, and it's a major subject for me because it's also personal, is the situations that have happened in the community called energetic synthesis and Lisa Renee. Now, I want to make this really clear. I love Lisa Renee. I love everybody in that community, and I really want to lay out the dangers that can happen in communities like this when projection and transference and scapegoating is rampant. I mean, you see it in families, especially with the black sheep in the family. You're reflecting something as the black sheep that people don't want to see. And to be honest, the more clearer you get, the more that can amplify. So even though there may be a general acceptance as you later, there's there's a lack of conversation as far as really trying to open up deeply and really wanting to learn about you, because if the family or the friends or whatever, if they really learn about you, then they're going to have to face things about themselves that they're very, very afraid of. Now, some of the things that have happened in this community, and I haven't been a part of the community in years. I'll remember pretty much an exact year. I know it's been probably at least 7 years. And I was kicked out of the community. So when I was in the community, I was in really good standing in the beginning. I was in really good standing in the beginning because I was a part of the narrative. So as long as I was a part of the narrative, then I was great. People were so nice to me, and even kind of praising me at times because of certain signatures that I was, or not really titles in the community, but a certain energy that I carry, as this Solomonic energy. We'll talk more about that, and then this is a little bit how this relates to the Ralph Ellis at work. And I had some really deep and profound experiences in the community, and like I said, I love these people. What happened in the community, and like me and others getting kicked out, is just, it's literally insane. It's literally insane because there was barely any dialogue. When I was in the community, and when I was kind of in the inner circle for a while in the community, people had a lot of questions about Lisa. Even the people closest to Lisa had a lot of questions about Lisa. And what I was trying to do, because I know how important this particular step is, and I know about this aspect of communal narcissism and how it happens in these communities, I was ready and had even talked to Lisa personally about this, to organize these questions that people had, these things that Lisa was saying, or maybe these incongruous actions that she had, to actually put these things together and present them to Lisa so she could answer these questions. So what she said at the time was, I'll consider it, but I don't want to get bogged down in, in all these like questions and critiques of myself. Now, I understand on the one hand. I mean, if truly people are trolling to basically like siphon your energy and you can't get any work done, that's one thing. Another thing is the personal self and personal responsibility. These people have questions about things that you have said and done that just seem a little off. And so why would you not answer those questions? And Corey Good, perfect example, never is going to answer a personal question, and his whole community is completely gone to shit and just left, just burning bridges and relationships in complete tatters. The difference between that and a scapegoat is willing to talk about it. So if your friends leave you or your family shuns you or whatever the case, were they willing to talk about it? So the scapegoat, after the scapegoat comes into their own, I'm really actually curious what, if there's a literal definition of the opposite of that. But when let's say the embodied human, the healed and healthy soul, we're ready to talk about it. let's sit down. Let's do it. Let's talk about it. If people don't want to talk to you about it, people don't have the capacity to talk to you about it, you trigger the crap out of all of them, and then they are much, much more comfortable with you being a demon. And in energetic synthesis, it's literally like that. You're literally interference. You're literally dark alien interference. And the projection is just astounding. So even someone who has so many gifts, so many beautiful gifts, again, Lisa Renee, love you. You have these blind spots, and you can't see it. I don't think any of what Lisa Renee has done, and we're talking people in this community have died. I know at least 2 people who have committed suicide, and they died with Lisa's stories in their head. She didn't have the forethought to realize that a traumatic psychological break was happening with these people, and that she just needed to shut the fuck up. When someone is having a psychological break, you don't fill their head full of a bunch of, even if it's all true, that would even be too much. You had them take a break and work on themselves, and that's what she didn't do, and she made it worse. I myself had a drug-induced psychological break in my early 20s. I'm 45 now. I know what it's like to be crazy. Did she ask me for help? No. I knew. I knew as soon as I saw it. As soon as I got into the community, I saw these things happen. I was like, whoa, you need to slow the F down and, quite honestly, just stop. Stop. One of those people killed themselves because they thought that it would save the universe. That's fucked. So yes, I guess there is going to be cussing on the podcast, and it's crazy. It's absolutely insane, and it was horribly irresponsible of her. And guess what? And this is what I'm going to ask people for. I need some crowdsourcing. I can't go in the community. I'm banned. I've heard that a lot of my writings in that community have been erased. So I would like anyone who can to go in there, search my name, Sean Kehoe, see if they can send me any material. It would just be helpful because I couldn't grab it before I left and expose any of these things. And this is what's interesting. If she and her husband did indeed erase any of me or anybody else, this is one of Lisa's claims to fame, that the aliens, the negative aliens, mess with our history and wipe out our history. Makes total sense. I believe that in many regards, and we'll talk about proof at another time. What she also believes is that this actually is something not just that happens with archaeology, but like holographically. So that the aliens come in to the hologram that is life and erase things, you know. So, and she's always talking about transparency. I even have a quote of Lisa Renee in one of my songs at the beginning of one of my songs. My music channel, I'll put links to that. I'm going to be putting out all my older music for free as I work on new stuff. Says, just, she's always talking about how important transparency is. How important transparency is. But then she's erasing people from the community. Literally erasing history. So, if we were all more mature at the time, we would have actually sat down as family and talked about this. But she didn't. And all that happened, and it's all behind closed doors. Lisa, I've been in your living room. I heard you making fun of someone in your community, someone who trusts you, a highly traumatized individual who trusts you, and you were making fun of her. Lisa's motto, she says that she and energetic synthesis are God, sovereign, and free. God, God talks shit about people, and it's still going on. And that's another aspect of the crowdsourcing. If you know that she's talking shit, let's get some quotes. Get it all out there. It's insane. We're family. We're a family. And for someone who is a leader and trying to lead people into freedom, lead people on the organic ascension timeline, she's got these little clouds hanging out, and you're following her. Lisa's gonna zig when she should zag. She's gonna get to a very crucial nexus, and she's not gonna choose the right one because she's got this little thing hanging out. Just saying. Hopefully, and all you beautiful people who are still there supporting her, even though you know all that bullshit is in there holding space for her, even some people right next to your fucking ass, Lisa Renee, people asleep in your own bed. They're there for you. And so many other people, even the ones that you kicked out, have been there for you. So, yeah, as always, when you're ready to talk, I'm here. So, yeah, two people committed suicide, and at least one other person I know is still dealing with very rough psychological issues, and many of the things that are in that person's head that they're dealing with, Lisa's stories. It doesn't mean that people aren't personal responsibility for their own mental health and taking responsibility for themselves. But if you think about someone who says they're God, why didn't you know? I've been through it. I can hang out with the person for 10 seconds and know that they have psychological issues and they need to slow down. I could have told you that 8 years ago. 8 years ago when I first started hearing about these situations. Other situations that I ran into were healers who were also psychologically unstable that Lisa was sending people to for healing sessions. They were morons in the sense that they were extremely psychologically wounded and they weren't working on themselves, and then they were creating LARPs with their clients. A lot of people know what LARPs are, but this is really important for you, for those of you who don't. Live action role play. People are creating their own worlds. Creating their own worlds where they're in control. Another aspect of trauma is trying to make the world safer because you can't just deal with what's going on in the world. On the one hand, there's an aspect of that makes sense. Of course you want to make the world safer. But when there is the responsibility, the change, the evolution that you need to go through in order to strengthen yourself or heal or whatever the case, so you can deal with some of the rougher things that happens in the world, the traumatized person tries super hard to make the world easier on themselves. There's a balance. One is solipsism. If you don't know what solipsism is when you think that all you need to do is change yourself and it's going to change the world. In some ways, yes. Absolutely. Inner work can change your experience of the world. But at the same time, there is a world. There's an external world. This isn't all an illusion. I was just talking to one of my friends lately, and she's like, oh yeah, you think this is all illusion? Like, go into the kitchen, cut your arm off, and get back to me. This is an illusion. This is real. Life is very real. Pain is real. The suffering going on this planet is real. The suffering that you have endured is real. It's another thing in new age communities, and everyone's talking about, oh, that's just your story. That's just your story. Yeah, it's your story. Your story is amazing. Your story is powerful. Your story is important. But there's balance. You don't want to be just talking people's ear off. And yes, there are thought loops as well. You know, there's a balance. But fundamentally, on a very fundamental level, You are important, and your story is important. What you've been through is important. And if you've been through hell, as you're on your way out, you're going to help everyone who's still in hell get out. Which I know, fundamentally, that's all Lisa Renee wants. I know it for sure. Like I said, I love her. And in a situation like I was in with her, if we were friends, I'd say that to her. Like, hey, why are you talking smack about so and so? Like, she loves you and she's hurting. Like, it's a pretty extreme case, and you're making fun of her. So, like I said, I don't completely know all the stories, but the theme that I do know is something is being said where me and some of these people that have been kicked out are these dark forces, these dark alien forces trying to get in. And because another, and I don't know, we're going to be taught, I've mentioned it a few times, and we're going to start to zero in on it because, this is going to be really important. And it really goes, again, like back tying into just all the beautiful things that were happening in ancient Greece, especially with the philosophers and the methodology that they were developing. And Jay Dyer is basically who we're going to elaborate the most on with this. And again, same thing, Jay. This is my audition tape to get to talk to you someday. Transcendental argumentation. Meaning, if you noticed, some of the things that I've said pointing out the incongruity with Lisa Renee, these are transcendental arguments. It means that something that she says and logical thinking, clear thinking, it doesn't add up. They're incongruous. And there are no contradictions in nature. And as far as logic is concerned, that's what logic is all about. You're trying to weed through all the contradictions because every contradiction is either a lie or an error. And in Lisa Renee's case, and in so many, the same thing. Especially prevalent in spiritual circles. Even just the people just with the best of intentions. They're probably not liars. Some are, for sure. But there's something going on, something that they haven't healed, and so they're viewing life through that lens. And you can't help it. There's grace. I mean, you want to pray for grace that, when I'm doing a session with someone, I just pray that I'm not a perfect person, but just let that the perfect information come through me. And when I'm in that session, I'm doing my best to be aware of what I do and don't know, and being very specific about, hey, this is my experience. I can't prove this to you, but I hope that this story from my experience can help you, as opposed to what Lisa did, getting in way over her head. It was crazy. I'm pretty sure it went on for years. I'm pretty sure, I know it went on for a long time for sure, that what I would have been able to see in the very beginning, having gone through that, and like, hey, stop talking to that person like that. Stop giving those stories to that person. He is not ready. He's still dealing with stuff from his childhood. That's what he's running from. And you got to heal that before you're wanting aliens to come down and scoop you up or show you the secrets of the universe. You gotta deal with the 6-year-old who's abused or whatever happened back then. And then what you're doing is you're just putting more pressure on that vessel, and he snapped multiple times to where he finally killed himself. And one of the things that I also do know, she blamed it on someone else. Lisa blamed it on someone else. Lisa blamed it on someone who, or at least partially, I've never heard her accept any responsibility. Ever. So if you have, yeah, let everyone know who knew him. Reach out to everyone who knew him. If you've taken some responsibility with your little inner circle, your little inner circle of sycophants, because that's all that they are, besides the ones that are there still supporting you. still supporting you and checking in with themselves every day. Like, I know this is a little off. Do I need to say something? And if you need to say something, please do. But at the same time, I understand if you're not, because you're there for a reason. You're placed there for a reason. Because at some point, Lisa's going to give this up, especially in the age of Aquarius.